Welcome to another episode of The Theory of Conspiracy. I am Ro, joined with my partner here, Mike, and today we want to talk about the Titanic. And no, I'm not talking about Our Hearts Will Go On. I want to talk about tragedy. I want to talk about ocean depths, and I want to talk about conspiracy theories. So how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, my friend. This is a hot topic right now going in the news because of the submarine. So we're going to hop on the bandwagon here and do our best.
Indeed, yeah. So in the month of June here, just a few weeks ago, we had a tragedy with a submarine that was exploring the Titanic wreckage. It was OceanGate, and in it there was several prominent people. The CEO of OceanGate was killed on here, Hamish Harding. We had a few others. I think close to 10 people were killed on there, and with that has created pretty much opened the floodgates on conspiracy theories ideas, not only on what may have happened to the sub there, if their deaths were to cover up the truth of what may be found in the wreckage, but also a revisit on the Titanic itself and some of the conspiracy theories about what may have actually happened there.
And also, there's some also conspiracy theories about the initial find of the Titanic on the bottom of the seafloor as well.
So let's get into that here. It's very, very interesting stuff here. As far as the current tragedy here with the sub, what I've heard about it, and we'll see and this is all new stuff. So there's I don't know if we fully have the full story on what's going on there, but from what I've heard, that caused I guess what happened was it was described as a catastrophic explosion that was reported by ships on there. They can detect explosions in there, but so some people will say that there was some explosives planted on the sub in order to stop that. From what I've read is that it's actually because of the hull, because of the depths that they encounter as they go deeper and deeper, that the hull was breached, and that created that explosive sound that they would have heard there. Even though we're just a few weeks out, what they're saying caused this implosion was the depths of the ocean, and that the Titan's hull was constructed from two different materials. One was carbon fiber reinforced plastic, and the other was titanium. And some of the experts are saying that's pretty unusual that you would even have those two different ones, as they can react differently to the pressure there, that should just go titanium. So weird that they would even get that far, right? So that's sort of that's what they're telling us happened, is that these mix of these two different materials were not quite ready for those depths, and as they went deeper, caused the implosion and caused instant death of all the people who are on board there, which is a tragedy nonetheless. But we're off to the gates here, wondering, is that the truth, and what are they trying to keep from us, Mike?
Oh, I haven't even heard the conspiracies come out on this one. I have been following the stories, and I have to admit, the memes that are coming out with this about the anti-billionaire memes from this are pretty outrageous and funny, but I have a morbid sense of humor. But heads or tails of it, from what I understand is the main narrative that they're selling right now and telling us is that it's just they were cutting corners, and that because of that, and because of the safety issues that were, and the safety flags that were ignored, this happened. So it's sad, but you tell me about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard, right? I know if I'm going underwater, I want, and I got the money, I got the research team. It seems like this would be one of those things that would be ironed out when everything's still in the design stages there. So I can't really speak on that, but you would think that if you're going to be going really deep into the ocean there, where that the pressure is going to be on there, that you'd be equipped for that, and that this would not be an issue that we'd be having in 2023. So I could understand where these ideas come from, where we think, like, surely these people would know that. But yes, I've heard the same thing. They were cutting corners, but I know that what it's gone is it's created renewed interest in the Titanic and what may have been covered up. So you're now starting to see a lot of life on TikTok and the internet, and it's sort of gone ablaze with this, where we're now saying, hey, was what happened to these guys as a warning to say, hey, we don't want you to research what's in the Titanic because there may be evidence there that is actually going to tell us what may have happened back when the Titanic ship went down and killed all those unfortunate people there. So why don't we get into that? Why don't we talk about, we don't know what happened now, we don't know what happened then, but let's try to look into what may have happened then.
Okay. Yeah. So the basic working theory for the Titanic, the initial Titanic sink, is that it was there's so many actually if you go down the Titanic thing, but ultimately all signs kind of come and converge at this thing that J.P. Morgan Chase, the man, not the bank, but the man himself, was a agent of the Rothschilds, and basically he was the owner of the Titanic. It was basically a hit job to get people out of the way that were opposed to a centralized bank in America, and some of them being John Jacob Astor, Isidore Strauss, and then there's Guggenheim. It was in there, and these were all millionaires and titans of their own industries and stuff like that. Part of the ruling elite, but like anything else, they had different political views, and they didn't want to have a centralized banking system because they felt that with the centralized banking system in the United States, that it would be a mass overreach and a form of control to the citizens. Which, depending on how you look at it today, they were right. So
so we're referring to the Federal Reserve and the creation of the Federal Reserve. And there's been a lot of conspiracy theories with that. And we had a JFK episode. I don't think it made our list, but the Federal Reserve has been linked to JFK. That one of the things that JFK was trying to put a stop to was to take away the Federal Reserve
and the centralized banking,
and that the international banking cartel put the hit out on JFK, because who would have the money to create the control, the shutdown of media and looking the other way of everybody, but people who have the money. So that's an interesting one there. The Federal Reserve, some things that we know about it. It's, even though it's federal is in the name, it's not quite federal. It's made up of different regional banks throughout America,
and then also other international conglomerate banks as well.
Yeah, so that creates all sorts of thoughts and theories that we have this elite ruling class that's basically setting interest rates and charging us on money that's just printed out of thin air and things like that. So there have been talks that things like the Great Depression and recessions that have happened have all been intentional, because the richest of the rich have benefited during those downtimes, so that all these acts are intentional, and the act of the Federal Reserve has made that basically possible, because it's created that entity from which all this control can happen.
Right. So in my best layman attempt, it would be like they can short and also predict the market because they control the market.
Yeah, so it's something tied to the Rothschilds, which is a rich family that a conspiracy theory as well say the Rothschilds control everything. Even richer and older than the Rockefellers, that is always mentioned as well. And that this is some sort of tool of the Vatican, and that the Vatican may actually, even more so than the United States government, the Vatican. I mean, if you look at, and we'll talk about that in depth one day, the control of the Vatican, but that's something that goes back longer than our government, even as far as their control. If you look at old European countries, all that, the church was very much tied to governments and kings and things like that. And even as kings and queens have changed empires, you will see that the religion aspect is something that has always been firmly in control with that. So, and then they talk about the Vatican archives, which may house technology and history that supposedly span miles and miles of paperwork of suppressed information. So it'd be very interesting what's truly in there, but that's something that's always connected to these catastrophes, that's them trying to cover up their tracks there.
Right. And also the Rothschilds are actually the bankers for the Vatican. That is another working theory as well. So
yeah. Yeah, so let's get into let's dive a little deeper into this Titanic conspiracy. So with JP Morgan there, so the theory goes is that
Who was supposed to be on the ship and stepped off last minute. We'll just
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, he was supposed to be on that ship there. So they were going to, and this all happened in 1912. They're heading uh they're heading out to New York City, and yeah, supposedly he was supposed to be on there along with all these other prominent businessmen, and decided, nah, I got some other stuff to do. I'm gonna take the Red Line steamship to New York, and yeah, and did not meet his fate at the bottom of the Atlantic there. So, what are some of these other theories that are involved with that? So, some say, how do you fake a ship to go down? Well, some say there was explosive planted in the hull of the ship, and that it wasn't really icebergs. Some say that it was the captain on there, that he may have been actually paid off. And I know I've seen some videos where they say that he was going through that iceberg area way too fast, almost like he was intentionally trying to take down the ship. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, and that he was an agent of J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds as well, and that it was definitely that. The other theory as well is that J.P. Morgan owned the Titanic and then a sister ship. I'm trying to find the name for that for the.
Oh, ship. that it was actually not the Titanic that
right.
that failed. That they just renamed that and repurposed it somewhere else. But this was actually I think it was like the Olympia or the Olympic or something.
Yeah,
like that.
The Olympic. Yeah, that's right. And so basically it like looked identical to the Titanic. It was right around the same size. So what they did is, they and this is the other one, is that they touted that the Titanic was done, and then that it wasn't as nefarious as they thought, right? But JP Morgan just slapped it on there, and that's why the boats weren't on there, because he was basically taking some of the boats over to the new Titanic, and it was like cutting corners on business deal, and then because they cut the corners on the business deal and something did happen, then let's say that the mainstream narrative is that they hit the iceberg, and then just an accident happened, they were at a loss, and there wasn't enough there wasn't enough boats on the ship to help all the people, and they went to their watery death. So that one, you kind of get both stories, is that it was, well, he wasn't going to blow up his new ship, so he just renamed it and just said, hey, he swapped it out for the other one. And there's a book about this. It's called The Other Titanic, and it's by let me see the author's name. Let me look it up real quick here. By Martin Simon. By Martin Simon, or Simon. No, I'm sorry, Simon Martin. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. So there's a book called The Other Titanic, and it was written by Simon Martin, and it goes into the detail of how this could have possibly been the other ship.
So did the old switcheroo? They slapped a Cadillac sticker on a Chrysler,
yeah,
and said, "Here you go." And then I imagine too. I mean, there may have been an insurance fraud. So if you invested so much in your Titanic ship versus maybe not so much in this Olympic ship,
right,
and then this gets taken down and it's in a pretty remote place where you can't really have the insurance claim adjuster, see all that. You could say, hey, I put all my money into it, so maybe he made
right. All you have is the testimonies of the survivors, right? That's all you have, and
right,
and the hearsay of what happened. But yeah, that's another working theory too, is that it was an insurance scam, and that's basically what ties into the Olympia. And so the Olympia was a brand new boat now that was originally the Titanic, but just put the name on, and so that's still sailing. And then the Olympia is down at the bottom of the ocean with the Titanic name on it, like you said.
Yeah, it's interesting. So something we've seen in the banking world, and I'm in the banking world, we've seen we've seen certain regional banks collapse, Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic, and we've seen certain banks like a Chase that are considered too big to fail, and this has sort of created that migration from people who've been in those smaller regional banks who are not able to get funds because the bank making bad decisions or people pulling their money, where now we're seeing some of these bigger banks become more prominent, and that's something that like in a situation of a chase, because they have so much money, the government puts trust in them to pretty much lift up these other banks, so we don't create those sort of issues there, these failing banks and people freaking out. So Chase swooped in and saved the day with Silicon Valley Bank and some of their business clients, and so that if this is indeed true, may have helped them get to that point where the government actually goes to a JP Morgan Chase and says, hey, we need your help to bail us out. So it's kind of a I scratch your back, you scratch my back sort of deal there.
Well, I don't really think that that's too far fetched in a capitalist society, and nor should it be, because I mean, like if one fails, then we all fail. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I agree with that those financial politics or whatever you want to call them, but I understand that it's a necessity to keep afloat in a way. You know what I mean? So that's very interesting. So yeah, this one has a lot of ties to it. What are some other things you heard about the Titanic that are of interest to you?
Yeah. So the other would be the mummy, that there was a mummy on board, and that if you know about the King Tut, when they explored that pyramid there was a lot of mysterious deaths that happened to that original team there, that they died, weeks, months later from weird diseases. Some say there may have been mosquitoes trapped in the pyramid, or just some sort of diseases. Some of them were just weird accidents, but it led to this idea that there's a mummy's curse and they're not supposed to be disturbed. So some say that an ancient mummy may have sealed the fate of the Titanic there. So according to legend, there was some British art collectors who were moving their stuff to New York, and they put a mummy on board here, and supposedly that mummy may have led to the curse of everything there. I mean, I don't know if there's much to that, but it just ties into this.
Yeah, the lore of why something catastrophic happened.
Yep.
No. I mean, I just go off on a tangent here. I've always enjoyed mummies. I always thought that those were super fucking cool. I just the idea of this corpse walking around always kind of tickled me. I just thought it was so funny.
So the Universal Monsters, King Tut, a mummy, wrap bandages.
Yeah, all that stuff.
I'm into that. And then almost when, like we're into weird stories, and when weird stories have basis in reality with that. So the King Tut curse is almost disappointing to me, because right. I was like, oh man, people die from it. So were they strangled by mummy hands? Like, right. Oh no, they died from
is there any other way? Is there any other way to die from a mummy besides strangulation?
No, right? I mean, that's
mouth's covered, right?
They're supposedly really strong. I guess they could push things on top of you if they're above you, and so you can be crushed by a mummy, you can be smothered by a mummy, you can be wrapped up by their bandages, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Like if they wanted to create like a mummy friend, they're like, come here. It's like almost like a vampire thing, but you have to be wrapped in the bandages.
Yeah, and then they're like, hey, keep my mouth and nose clear, and then nope, and then you're. Yeah, I mean, you don't ever hear about mummies being biters or mummies.
You see, mummies are really overlooked, I think, as a monster. I mean, we have like these Twilight series. We have some werewolves in that thing. We also have, what's the new trend? Zombies are a thing. I guess zombies are kind of they're not like purposely preserved, so I guess they're not really a thing. But we need to make like a next mummy teen novel. That's what we need to make. Just fucking blow up, like King Tutankhamun.
Yeah,
King
Tutankhamun. We could call it Mummy Love, but we might attract the wrong audience. Like, it was a good book, but I didn't get any of the Mummy Love I was expecting.
Right. Oh man. Hey, I typed in MILFs. No, you're supposed to type in mummy.
Yeah. I mean, there was the Brendan Fraser movies. They were pretty successful there.
That's true. That's true.
But and that one I would say mixed in more of the supernatural component, because it wasn't just a slow moving like zombie with bandages. It was like I'm like a sorcerer dude, and this curse of the mummies seems to be more of that versus the physical, mummy out to get you. It's that you can die. It's like Final Destination. You can die from disease. You can be hit by a car. You can be all sorts of things.
All kinds of wild shit.
Yeah, just because you disturbed the mummy's lair there. So
hey, I really just want to circle back to this mummy love idea.
Of course you do.
Well, we brought. What if it's like a female mummy, and then she falls in love with a young man that's in college, like he's a college football star or something, and then hijinks ensues. That's the premise of mummy love. It's got to be, right?
That was the premise of Mannequin.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, Mannequin. If you remember the movie. And we can build this world together.
Yeah,
nothing's gonna stop.
It's a great song.
Yeah,
a
good 80s
song.
movie. She was a mummy. I don't know how she made the jump to Mannequin, but I remember the first few minutes where I was like, am I watching the right movie? She was very much an Egyptian, and they mummied her out, and then she ended up in a department store in New York. Maybe she was on the Titanic. I don't know. But,
Mannequin, the sequel to Titanic.
And he was definitely younger than her, not just the Kim Cattrall thing.
Yes.
She was a beautiful woman. But she was like thousands of years old at that point, and he was like in his 20s.
Yeah. No, it's just, yeah. Mummy love. I love it. Okay. We're writing the script. That's perfect. Starring Kim Cattrall. Kim, you heard it here first. We're going to get you.
Yeah. If we can leave the mummy, love.
No, I'm done. I won't circle back to the mummy anymore.
The other theories are that it was that they were attacked by a U-boat. That a German ship may have launched a torpedo at it and led to the sinking there. So this was the I guess there was some precedence for that, because in 1915 a German U-boat did torpedo a British ocean liner off the coast of Ireland, and it killed almost 1,200 people with that. Yeah,
I actually heard that one. That one I've known for quite a while, actually. That's like the early internet days for me. The one that kind of ties into that with the U-boat, at least, and U-boat being a submarine, is that the first like National Geographic exploration and the mini submarines to go find the Titanic at the bottom of the Atlantic was actually staged, not staged in the sense that it didn't happen. They did find the Titanic at the bottom of the Atlantic, but it was more of a cloaking tool for the American government to go find Cold War American submarines at the bottom of the ocean that were hit by the Russians, and so that they wouldn't get that technology. So they retrieved what they needed to retrieve, and then from there they just did a hop, skip, and a jump away with their sonar and found the Titanic, and that was what the news covered. But what they were really trying to do was get submarines that had been hit and get their technology, so that the enemy, the Germans, the Russians, could not get it.
Interesting.
Yep.
You had mentioned, was that the theory that you had alluded to earlier? Because you said that there was something that you had heard about with.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting stuff. I don't know if we had talked about some of the religious groups. I don't know if you want to cover any of that. The Jesuits that seem to be tied, or
the Jesuits is a Catholic organization. There are many Catholic orders that different priests and different brothers, monks belong to. Whatnot. There's different orders for the nuns, and within those nun rankings, there's different organizations within that as well. But the Jesuits, the Rothschilds, all that stuff, they were basically the Catholic Church. Was basically the hitman for the Titanic sinking, is one theory as well. So it's just kind of building off of what you've already said and what we've already talked about JP Morgan Chase being an agent for the Rothschilds. But it ties back to the Catholic Church as well.
Yeah.
Because they wanted a centralized bank, and that's what America's if you get into like the Egyptian needles and stuff like that, that's also goes into there. So like the America is the military, England is the bank, and then the Catholic Church is the religion. So, and those are the three pillars of the New World Order, if you will. So some people say, I don't really get that deep into that one. I think all of those separate organizations are their own entity, and they, of course, at some points in history have worked together, but I don't think it's as on large of a scale as that is. But
yeah,
personally speaking,
gotcha. So with the Titanic, we with the sub that just recently went down due to the hull, right? We mentioned how the hull was not equipped for those depths. Goes back to the Titanic. The Titanic was supposed to be indestructible. It was supposed to be able to take a Titanic. I don't know if
there's definitely parallels.
Yeah, and it's sort of has that allusion to 9/11, where some people will say that the jet fuel didn't burn hot enough to melt steel beams. The same thing with that conspiracy theorists. People will say, well, the iceberg should not have done the hull unless it was purposely, I guess, maybe the speed that they were going through or some sort of explosion there. So there's some interesting parallels throughout all of them there. But yeah, the Titanic. Any other thoughts on this?
I don't know how much merit there is to this one personally. I think it's interesting. As we said before on this show, we just like bringing up the topics. But I haven't dived too deep into this one, if I'm, pun intended. But yeah, it's interesting to say the least. What about you?
Yeah, with that, this isn't one that I've sunk my teeth into, pun intended, as well as much as some of the others there. I mean, the Titanic. I mean, even like the movie wasn't. I remember the 90s hoopla where it was like the bazillion dollars and it was in theaters for like ever. It was like in theaters for like 2 years. It felt like, I was like, just get on video already so these girls stop talking about it. But I remember it was, as a movie, it was just something I was not really interested in. The Celine Dion song was hot. Leo was hot. So I kind of avoided it for a long time. And I watched the movie and I was like, it's okay.
No, it was good. I mean, at the time it was really a really huge, budget movie, and the set design and the special effects combined, it was really good. So I did see Titanic in a theater.
How many times?
Twice.
I knew it.
Yeah, twice. I had to go
with the
once.
Girlfriend.
No, I didn't have a girlfriend. I was this puppy dogging along with some of the girls that we went to school with. It was like, oh, do you want to come? I'm like, yeah, of course, dude. Or dudette, whatever.
One thing I do want to add on with one of the people who was on that sub is a Shahzada Dawood. And one thing, I haven't seen the exact connections to that, but I guess an interesting connection he has is that he serves on the board of the SETI Institute, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. That's, the big radar dishes that are beaming out signals to space to try to get aliens to communicate with us.
Yeah,
so
first contact stuff, right?
Yeah. So some people think that may be part of it, but who knows? But I don't know. I mean, there hasn't really been much on that. I mean, if they're allegedly coming here, then who cares about the satellite dishes at this point? Just, open your eyes and, get some photos. But that was an alien connection that I saw for one of these victims of the sub implosion here.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, interesting stuff. Something to think about. Something to Google. If you look at the Titanic, like I said, the other Titanic is a good book if you're a fictional reader to get started on. But yeah, I think that may wrap up the show. So let's just say, always have a healthy distrust, unless you're around friends, and then hold each other's hands and support each other. And I'll leave it at that. What about you, Rolando?
I'll say one thing. It's a tragedy for all the victims here and the victims of the other 1900s. Always stay with an open mind. Stay weird, as I always say. And I guess my parting words would just be: near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart will go on.